Welcome to Saltier Politics. We are doing this intro having had almost a whole glass of wine.
A whole bottle, actually.
We interviewed the amazing Jessica Kogan, CMO of Cameron Hughes Wines and Chief Digital Officer of Vintage Wine Estates.
Yeah, so Jessica was nice enough before this interview to send us a case of wine.
This is our first time drinking
This is
wine
our first.
on the podcast.
This is the first time. No, it's not true. We've drank alcohol on the podcast before with our guests.
Not wine.
Not wine though. But this is an excellent bottle of wine, I feel like the need to promote this wine not because we have Jessica on the podcast, but because it's really, really, really good. We are drinking the Cameron Hughes Lots 671 2016 Meritage and from Napa Valley, and go to Cameron Hughes Wine chwine.com.
Yep.
And order it. And she said it's probably $25 a bottle, and you're drinking essentially a $60 or $70 or $80 bottle of wine. Truly, take our word for it. Emily and I are aficionados when it comes to drinking.
It's true.
And this is a really, really, really good bottle of wine. Really highly recommend it. So, Emily,
I think
it's been okay. Emily's apparently Emily's got the giggles, but
I have the giggles so hardcore
from drinking a couple glasses of wine. But I will say this, Emily, we haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks. Well, we haven't done the podcast. We have seen each other because, as you know, I was training for all this time to run a 5K. I failed miserably because I developed this horrible neck condition that I just found out last week will probably necessitate surgery. So you might be seeing me in a neck brace the next time you see me, which is neither good nor funny, although you probably will find it hilarious. But you'll make fun of me, but I'll tweet a picture out of how ridiculous I look. But because I couldn't run, or as Jerry Seinfeld said, I chose not to run.
Well, Julie, you did place third in your age group.
I did. Well, here's the thing. So Emily, this is going to get both of us kicked out of the authorities who are in charge of this, because you're not allowed to transfer your number to anybody. But you ran in my place as me. And here's the thing, Emily. I believe I ran in the 40 or above category.
Correct.
You are how old?
29. You're
29, and yet you came in fourth, I believe, in the 40 or above age group. Why could you not have brought it home for me?
I know. You know what? I don't have an excuse, but I was just so happy running across.
I texted you. I said
they look tired.
I said they have my age, which is 46, on the bib. So please, when you show up, look tired, because you obviously don't look 46. But
you were there with a sign and cheering.
I was.
And I think that gave me the extra little push.
What I like is that we brought friends with us, and the minute you started running, we went to Burger King.
She went to Burger King.
We went to Burger King and waited for you to finish the 5K. I did not eat at Burger King, although I wanted to. You
got coffee immediately.
I got coffee at Burger King immediately. Other people got
chicken
nuggets at, I believe, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
And you guys did a great job. And from what I understand, you said it was a very tough course. And you did it. So congratulations.
But that just means we're waiting for you to run the next one.
So that's the part that sucks. So the part that sucks is I made a commitment to run a 5K. So I will have to start training all the way from scratch. And I feel like all this summer when I tortured myself with running, because as you and everybody who listens to this podcast knows, I hate running. And
we did listen to we listened to Britney Spears on the way. That was awesome.
We did. We listened to Britney on the way to the to the race, and we listened to the Spice Girls on the way back from the race. And not just because Sean Spicer decided that he was going to screw up our Spice Girls love.
He ruined everything. He danced to spice up your life as his first dance on Dancing with the Stars, and I was furious. I texted you, and you're like, I don't watch reality, and I knew that, but I just needed to share that with you because I knew you'd see memes.
Well, it's very funny because last weekend my friend Jen is the book agent for Rashad Jennings, who means nothing to me but might mean something to people who either watch Dancing with the Stars or like the Giants. And Rashad Jennings was doing a book signing near my apartment, so she insisted that I go. So I go, and I bring my son, and we get a picture with Rashad. Well, I don't get a picture with him, but he gets a picture with Rashad Jennings. And afterwards, I say to my friend Jen, "Who the hell is Rashad Jennings?" And she goes, he's a former giant. And I said, okay, that means nothing to me. And she goes, well, if it means anything, he won Dancing with the Stars last season or 2 seasons ago. And I said, that actually means less to me than football. Neither of those things mean anything to me, but I think I'm alone in that. I think people are either into football or Dancing with the Stars, and I'm not into either. I'm embarrassed by reality TV. I feel like why do I want to see people get humiliated?
Well, one of the things for me is just because a lot of times at work, because it can be so heavy with a lot of different political, different events that happen, that sometimes my suspension of disbelief just needs to be.
That's what Lifetime Movie Network is for.
Yes.
Like, you got a good Tori Spelling, Lifetime Movie Network. Like, Tori Spelling's husband slept with her mother secretly and had a baby, and
I may need.
He might try to kill her. He might try to kill her, and that's what Lifetime's for. Not reality TV, because reality TV is like real people.
I know, that's true. That's very true. But
like, do I need to see Sean Spicer getting completely humiliated? The answer is no.
I had to turn the channel. I was embarrassed and uncomfortable.
You know what I'm embarrassed about for Sean Spicer, and I sincerely mean this? Like, there are people in his previous job. Dana Perino is a great example. Dee Dee Myers, George Stephanopoulos, Nicole Wallace, I don't think had his job. She was the comms director. But I mean, there are plenty of people, Joe Lockhart, I can go on and on, of people who were at the podium at the White House, and they are doing well. I mean, they're doing really well, and they're holding on to their self-respect while they're doing it. And is Sean Spicer really that desperate? And everybody, when I tweeted this out, everybody said, well, he's making $125,000, for the show. And if he goes on, he'll make another 25 or X number of money. What people don't get is people in that position, after they leave that job, I get that it's a lot of money to be on Dancing with the Stars. But when you have that job and you leave that job in good standing, you make in the multiples of that. You just do.
Right.
And if he's doing this for the money, that's sad, because it just goes to show how his career path has been completely cut off as a result of that. And if he's doing that for other reasons, like celebrity reasons, it just goes to show how much Donald Trump has absolutely influenced this reality TV. I mean, reality TV, which I don't watch, but you do, you watch to make fun of it. Right. It's not for real. And then suddenly you have this reality TV star becoming president. You have the former governor of Texas, Rick Perry, becoming energy secretary.
Also was on Dancing with the Stars.
Also on Dancing with the Stars, right? And suddenly that's because, like, you had Omarosa, is that her name? Who was on The Apprentice, apparently. She's in the cabinet. What are we talking about here? Like, is this really? And then Sean Spicer goes on to Dancing with the Stars. I don't know if he's still on or not. I really don't care. But is this really where we are? That serious people either have to make money this way because they can't make it any other way, or they're doing it because they think this is how you curry favor with Donald Trump, that if you become a reality celebrity, he really can't go after you. Like, what are we talking about here?
I know is it all about getting the followers and having that longevity? Because once you're on the shows, you get more followers on Instagram and Twitter. I don't know.
I guess you could monetize it, right? I mean, if you have followers, you become an influencer. I mean, look at the Kardashians, but you don't expect the Kardashians to actually be serious people. I mean, the thing about Sean Spicer, who I know not well, but slightly, from Fox and from other stuff, he was a normal operative. I mean, he was the RNC press secretary. He was, he had a legit career in politics. And I just feel like everything that Donald Trump touches turns to like gaudy nonsense. And I kind of feel sorry for him. Like, I don't take any pleasure in Sean Spicer coming out there in a bright yellow, neon, green, yellow, whatever it was, shirt, dancing to the Spice Girls. Like, I think it's humiliating. He's my age. The guy's a former military guy. This is not what we go to college for, right?
No, it's not. And because I'm really enjoying seeing the former Bachelorette on Dancing with the Stars, but she's a reality star.
She's the former Bachelorette. Yeah. And I don't mind seeing the Kardashians in Dancing with the Stars. Well, I don't watch Dancing with the Stars, but I wouldn't mind seeing celebrities in Dancing with the Stars. Like, you get it. But this is somebody who spoke for the United States from the podium of the White House, and to watch him be on Dancing with the Stars, like, really, this is your next move after Dancing with the after speaking on behalf of this nation?
Right.
I don't know. It's upsetting, and I feel sorry for him. I'm not actually making fun of him. I actually feel sorry for him. I hope he finds his way back to, I don't know what, to reconciliation.
Well,
when this fever eventually breaks, which it will.
Well, we'll be talking about it. I guess.
Is he still on the show, by the way?
Yes, he still is. I feel like people should get ready for our interview, but then after our interview, look forward to us talking about the Ukraine situation and the whistleblower. Because I think...
Yes.
Because that is also something I am salty about.
Me too.
So let's get right into the interview with Jessica, which is awesome. Julie and I had a ton of fun with that.
We did, and not just because we drank her delicious wine, Cameron Hughes.
And are still drinking it.
Yes, Lot 671, 2016 Meritage, which I would call Meritage, which Jessica said was a Bordeaux blend, or just a Bordeaux, which no wonder I love it, because I love Bordeaux wines. Anyway, it's very good. chwine.com, go get it. Trust us on this. You might not agree with us politically. You might not agree with us ideologically. Take our word for it. We know good liquor.
It's true.
It's really good.
Welcome to Saltier Politics, Jessica Kogan, CMO of Cameron Hughes Wine and Chief Digital Officer of Vintage Wine Estates. We are psyched to have you here.
And we're really psyched, Jessica, because we pre-gamed a little bit. You were nice enough to send a case, which was incredibly generous of you. But you were nice enough to send us a case of your wine. And so what are we to do but decide to pop it open before doing the interview with you? So we are sitting here sipping a Cameron Hughes Lot 671 2016 Meritage. And it's really good. Delicious.
Such a yummy wine.
It's so good. It's my type of wine. It's dry. It's great. I love it. Tell us about the business. It's a really unusual business model.
Sure. So started this company in 2001 with Cameron, and the idea was that it really begins with we really like nice, expensive wines. But back in 2001, we were struggling, and we're like, we can't afford super expensive wine, and why can't these wines be less expensive? Why can't we find a way to access these like wines that are $50, $60 a bottle and bring it to customers at a really fair price? There must be a way. There must be an inefficiency in the market. And after some looking at the wine market and seeing that there's actually really quite a bit of bulk wine at the very high end that was being sold to large companies, we're like, wait a minute, we can do that. We can buy that very high end wine and sell it under our label and sell it at half the price. And the model really took off in 2005 when we were selling at Costco, and then it really went crazy when the internet really became true e-commerce in 2010. While we were all doing e-commerce in like Amazon and eBay from like 2005 to 2010, customers really weren't buying wine online. They started in 2010 after a couple of cases came before the Supreme Court and enabled customers to buy wine online where they weren't able to do that before. And so thus bloomed Cameron Hughes Wine, which really we like to think is like the foremother of Warby Parker and Everlane and, the digitally native companies that sell products by disintermediating in the market.
So explain this, though, because it kind of doesn't make sense. If I have owned a vineyard and I've developed this very high-end wine and I'm selling it for, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 bucks a bottle, what's my incentive to give it to you and let you sell it under your label?
Sure. It's really expensive to grow grapes and then crush them and then age them. And so they don't want to lose the capital that they've put into making that wine. At the same time, they don't want to depress their price by having an oversupply in the market. So they do need to find discrete ways to sell that wine so that customers believe that the market is short on their wine.
And we'll never know whose wine we're drinking, right?
Never.
Okay.
I mean, we have had I would say thousands of customers talk about it online and try and figure out where the source wineries are, where the source wineries are. And we always provide, obviously, appellation and vintage and all of, like, the very important information about the wine's, like, birth. But we never disclose where we buy the wine from, out of respect for the growers who are doing an amazing job, but really also, want to control their market and want to build their brand in the way that works for them.
Do you ever look online and see that people are guessing and figure out they've guessed the right wine?
All the time.
And do they get it sometimes?
I would say those that are super quirk dorky and really, like, I call it like fashionistas, like,
right,
who are super into it, they will at times figure it out. Especially cab drinkers and actually meritage drinkers. They really, really get into kind of the provenance of the wine and then kind of tracing back the history. And it's so amazing to see the discussion. It's incredibly robust and it's exciting. It's so awesome to see customers so into something that you're doing and that really at the end of the day is like a value to them. It just feels really good.
So what I found was really cool about you is you were kind of the brains behind the e-commerce business side of Cameron Hughes Wine, which is really what took it off the ground. And you think of mostly men kind of starting this e-commerce, but you were really at the forefront of that. Can you how did you know, or did you just have this instinct? And because I saw that you were in fashion before and you had,
yes.
So talk about that.
So the wine industry, so I'm sure that the two of you know that the wine industry is very male dominated.
Right.
And so you would think that these ideas will come from a dude. And to be perfectly candid, at the time that I was thinking e-commerce for wine, everyone in the industry was like, you're insane. There's no way anybody will ever buy wine online. They will only go to the grocery store or their local wine shop. Nobody will ever do it. But for me, I saw the opportunity in that, the amazing thing about the internet and the world of online is that you can provide a narrative. And the narrative is very difficult to communicate in the wine store and very difficult to communicate in the grocery store. Most people, go to that grocery aisle and they're like, oh my God, like, what do I buy? I don't even know what to buy. I think I'll just buy like the really nice label. And so for those of us who feel extremely intimidated when it comes to wine, me being one of them, the internet was just like the perfect medium to have that conversation and then apply the principles of e-commerce. And so we did that, starting in 2005. And I would say it really, for us, it just really took off when we started doing videos. And I always felt Cam was just like an amazing spokesperson when it comes to wine. I mean, he's very easy to talk to. He doesn't like talk over you in terms of your knowledge of wine and is very much about what you like. And he really explains very clearly what the wines are about. And so that's really like how it all came together. I had the right person to put in front of a video, in front of a camera, like kind of pre-YouTube, and then the back end system that was, being built by so many companies out there that specialize in e-commerce, the software. So just like the two came together and I was like, we're going to do this. And in 2010, it just like totally just exploded. And ever since then, it's been kind of amazing to watch it grow.
I think that's really cool because Julie, with politicians and often a lot of people you work with, it's about setting the right narrative.
No question.
And I just find that so interesting because once you get that and that catches on, it can completely redefine like the wine or the business and take a lot of the intimidation out of it.
Have you found that as a woman, it's a little harder for you to break into this? You said it was a male-dominated industry, and that's obviously true. But have you found generally that being taken seriously in business, not just the wine business, but generally in business, has hurdles because of the fact that you are a woman?
Can I get salty?
You can get salty anytime. You come to the right place, my friend.
Please.
Can I get salty? I think that, from my own experience, it is very difficult. And the reason why I find it very difficult personally is because, especially in a male-dominated industry, it's like a club, right? It's like you walk into a room, at the executive level, and it's like 7 guys and 1 girl. And just like natural dynamics of interaction make it very difficult for you to break into whatever it is that they have going on between them, consciously or unconsciously. And so it makes it really challenging for me as a woman to feel confident when I want to say certain things. And over time, I've learned to just kind of do it the way I want to do it and be myself, but it took years. And now I'm beginning to see more women at the executive level, and especially the company that acquired Cameron Hughes Wine. There are a lot of top female executives, and it's so cool to walk into an executive team meeting and to have like 3 women and 7 guys.
do you find that women, because you've been around and actually were one of the pioneers of this e-commerce business, that younger women are coming to you looking for advice, or do you feel like they decided at this point they're going to try to do things on their own and do things in a different way, or maybe come up with a new generational way of doing things? Or how do you feel about that?
So I feel like they're asking a lot of interesting questions that I never asked. For example, we just interviewed this lovely user acquisition candidate who has worked at some great places, and she's a female. And I was interviewing her as the last person, and she looked at me and she said, "Is this a safe environment for women to work in? Because I only see guys here."
Interesting.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, I would never have asked that question when I was interviewing, like going through my career. So I think the questions that these women are asking are super good. Like, I would never have had the balls to do that. I also find that a lot of women will come to me with, how do I break in? What do I need to say? Like, how do I interact in meetings? Just kind of like tips and tricks. I don't know if they're necessarily forging their own way. I think what they're trying to do is make sure that they can like achieve some type of equality in the workplace. Because in truth, like, yes, I'm in a male-dominated industry, but I was also in the fashion industry, which is male-dominated as well. There are a lot of women in mid-level ranks, but it was all men at the top.
What advice would you give to women who want to kick in the door the way you did in your industry?
I mean, you just have to. I mean, it's like said so often, but you really have to believe in yourself. You just have to believe that what you're saying is right, and be okay if it's wrong. Like, really be okay with it, and forgive yourself for being wrong. I feel that we women are raised to be like, we've got to do this right, we have to do that right. You have to look a certain way, you have to act a certain way. And I still believe it, and that's very prevalent now. I have 2 young daughters, 14 and 12, and I see that. They're trying to meet some exceptionalism that is put in front of them that their male peers aren't. And when women go into the workplace, they walk in there thinking, I have to do everything right, and if I do it wrong, I'm of no value.
I definitely see that even when my younger brother answers a question. Even though he's wrong, he'll say it with authority, and I'm like, you made up total bullshit. And my brother's like, well, it sounded good, didn't it? And I was just like, that is the confidence that women need.
Well, I mean, I think it's that, like, Emily, that's so well said, because I have always found in my universe that the top executives, male executives, can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Even if the Brooklyn Bridge isn't available for you to buy, they will sell it to you, and you will buy it, and you will end up with nothing. They literally they walk into a room and they're like, they feel powerful. They feel like they can do it. They feel like they can own it. And I have yet, in my 25 years of experience, I've met a handful, maybe 4, 5 women who are like that. The rest are just like, it's too much for me. I can't deal. Like, I'm happy at my level. It's just, they don't feel like they can get ahead.
It's interesting because I have younger women coming up to me asking me the question I just asked you all the time. And I never know the tension between telling them to just keep your head down, shut up, ignore the noise and just power through, or whether you actually become a disruptor and speak up and make your opinions heard early on, and establish yourself as somebody who's a troublemaker. I don't know the answer to that. Obviously, the latter is the kind of thing you want to inspire women to be, but I'm not sure practically in business whether that's an effective strategy. What do you think about that?
The complexity in that question. I will say that at the beginning, I think it's really important for women to establish boundaries. And because you're asking me like a couple of things, right? Like, should they walk in and be like, let me show you how it's going to be done, or let me be like the greatest salesperson and show you how I'm going to make a difference, and or just be like, okay, like, tell me what to do, and I'll spit it back at you and do it exactly how you want it to be done. And I really actually think it's really important to find that middle, right? Where, yes, you do what they're asking, but you also push. You push for more. You constantly push until you break through. But when you break through is like the super scary moment, right? Because that's where they're all looking at you and you are generally alone because very few other women have broken through.
Nothing is scary. Yeah, you're right. I mean, to me, nothing is scarier than the fact that when you have employees, you realize all your decisions affect them, affect their livelihood, affect their families. And that's a pretty terrifying notion to think about.
It's so crazy. I mean, it really is. And I will say, I mean, we talk, the Me Too movement, and we talk so much about, women being more empowered and having more say. And I definitely think the fact that we're having the conversation is amazing. I am still not seeing that empowerment in the workplace because there aren't enough women who are making it through. And like Sheryl Sandberg's book that she wrote a couple of years ago. Right. What was the name of it?
Is it Lean In?
Lean In.
Lean In.
Yep.
And I when I read the book, I was personally just a little disappointed because Sheryl speaks from a place of having access to everything.
No question. I had the same reaction. So annoying.
And I was so annoyed. And I'm like, the book should be called Lean Over. Because you can literally...
we're cheersing to that.
We're cheersing to this. By the way, we're clinking. We just so you know, we're drinking your wine out of a Princeton day school tumbler, which my high school sent me as a gift many years ago. And that's how classy we are, by the way. So yes, keep going, please.
And it tastes good.
It tastes good. It doesn't matter about the glass. It tastes great. We may be slightly drunk right now, but that's neither here nor there. Keep going.
I love that. We're lubing our conversation. We're lubing it up. But that was like a very frustrating book for me to read because I actually felt it was so unrealistic. And, it is so... Women are faced with this very hard choice. They are, asked to be perfect. Then they get married. Then they have children. And then they're asked to make the choice, like, do I stay with my kids or do I go to work?
Do you ever feel that, by the way? Let me interrupt you on that because now that we're getting into the heart of this, I have a 7-year-old. You said you have a 14 and a 12-year-old. Yeah. Do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel like your kids are saying to you, and Emily can jump in as somebody who may or may not one day be a mother, but probably, Emily, you can relate to this as well. But the part where you're saying, honey, I need to go to work right now, or I need to focus on this email, or I need to focus on the sales pitch, or whatever you might be focusing on, and I can't focus on you right now. And it's one thing for Sheryl Sandberg, who I appreciate the tension. I mean, obviously, no matter how much money you have, you're still a parent and nobody can replace that. But for Sheryl Sandberg to have all the access to childcare that she needs, not worrying about how much it's going to cost her, not worrying. And I think both you and I are probably on the more fortunate side of this discussion as well. But for the average mom, not worrying about having to run home because you can't afford a babysitter or whatever the reason. That's an awful tension to have, I think, for mothers especially. I don't feel like men necessarily have that same concern. I don't want to generalize, but I don't see my guy friends thinking, oh my God, if I stay an extra half hour at this business meeting and not be around for my son or my daughter, that this is somehow going to impact them psychologically the way that you and I probably think it might.
Totally. I mean, my kids are, I meet parents at my kids' schools, and I have a lot of friends who have children, and, it is in their relationships with their, with the father, the men don't have the same, exactly what you just said, like psychological yearning that I think we feel like it's like almost an evolutionary instinct that we can't tamper down, right? It's like, why can't I just not worry about this? Why can't I just focus on my work and not worry that my kid is in good hands, or that I have to go pick her up, or I have to go take her here and I need to schedule this? Like, it doesn't even cross the mind of my male counterparts who all have children.
I think, though, that's part of the thing that makes women great leaders, because you have that empathy and you have that knowing, these moms have to get home to their kids. And it's just about leadership, too, that I don't think we see a lot in politics when only men are in charge, because there's just not that extra level of empathy. Even when you were talking about just employing different people and thinking about them, I think that women's especially bring that to the table.
We are certainly not seeing any empathy right now, that's for sure.
That's true. But Emily, I think Emily raises an interesting point. I just remember I was about 30, which was a while ago, a long time ago, but I was fortunate enough to be in a position where I could hire people at the time. And this one guy shows up and asks for some astronomical amount of money. And I said to him, well, that's interesting, because the person coming in before you asked for, I think, $10,000 or $15,000 less than you did. And this guy, who was, let me add, unqualified for this job, looks at me with all the self-confidence in the world, and he goes, yeah, but I'm worth it. And he said it with so much self-confidence that I hired him. And by the way, I had to fire him later because he wasn't worth it. But the fact that he proceeded, maybe only a 30-year-old could fall for that scam. But by the way, I borrowed his logic. Later on in my life, when I went to work, this is a story nobody knows, but you'll appreciate this as a woman in business. When I first decided I wanted to work at Fox, I was working at I had just ended a contract which I decided not to renew at CNBC, and I decided I wanted to go to Fox. And everybody asked why, and I said, there's nobody better to learn from in terms of good television than Fox News. I mean, whatever else you might think about Roger Ailes, he was a genius and he was very good at TV. And I said, I want to learn from him. And they said, but you're a liberal, how? And I said, I don't care. I want to work there. And my agent at the time said to me, you will never get a job at Fox News. You are, you're not the right ideology. You are not the right height. You are not the right hair color. It's never going to happen. And by the way, I think, and by the way, I think I might have been newly pregnant at the time, so I certainly wasn't the right weight either. And he just said, it's never going to happen. And I said, you want to bet? And I kind of walked in with that same attitude that guy had walked in probably years earlier, and just walked in and said, I'm worth it. You got to hire me. And I don't know how I pulled that off either, but it worked. So it's that kind of attitude and confidence that I think women don't necessarily have. And that's something that hopefully, look at you. Your example is a great example. You were coming up in 2001. The internet bubble had just burst. The economy was in a recession, as I recall. I assume you did this before 9/11, but maybe not. People's priorities were elsewhere at the time. And nevertheless, you did it. You had the confidence to go to a male-dominated industry. Did you move to Napa from wherever you were living?
I moved from New York. I lived in New York for a long time, and I moved to San Francisco. And our company is based out of San Francisco,
right?
Because we really are we've really become a technology company in wine. Being here was always really good, but you don't have to be in Napa to get samples and sourcing. we go to Napa and Sonoma all the time to, Central Coast, everywhere, but you don't have to be there. A lot of the blending happens here. And then the production piece happens in Napa and Sonoma and up in wine country.
Tell us about your favorite wine that you've done. If you can, or you don't want to choose between your children, I assume, but tell us what you personally like to drink.
I am really a red blend person, and I love red blends because they're very balanced and they have really good tannin structure. I do like tannin. A lot of people don't like tannin because, it makes their mouth dry. And I do like the fruitiness that you get from a blend. So I'm very, very partial to red blends. And, back in the day, red blends were very out of vogue, and now they've become quite popular. I also am a very big Cabernet fan, and I like really rich, very styled Cabernets. So I don't like the stuff that's just like super easy to drink. I like the stuff that really just has a little bit of a kick to it and just like has a lot of complexity in your mouth. And I know I'm sounding like a little bit of a cork dork, and I'm totally not. But I just like wines that have a little more throttle.
By the way, I'm using the word cork dork from now on. I really like that.
You've just brought that expression to the East Coast. Thank you very much.
Yep, that is added.
Isn't it? It's like fashionista, right? I mean, it's like obsessive. It's an obsessive person who is just so passionate about the category. And there are a lot of people who are really into wine, and it's a little bit different for the millennials. Their tastes are definitely shifting away from wine more so than Gen X and Boomers. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens.
What are they into? Emily, what are you guys into?
Well, my friends are into IPAs, which are disgusting.
I agree.
Personally disgusting. Yeah. But a lot of, I think, specialty cocktails and stuff like that.
Really? I feel like I'm a Gen Xer, and I feel like we went through that phase about 10 years ago, no? The specialty cocktails?
Mixologists and just like infusing it with lavender.
Oh,
stuff like that.
Well,
lavender, yeah, the lavender cocktail, absolutely. I mean, Emily's totally right. Beer
like aviations?
is huge. Local artisanal beer is very, very hot. Cocktails are very hot because liquor is a little bit less expensive and definitely gives you an effect a little faster. And then the big one, which is cannabis.
That's true. I guess I never thought about the fact that cannabis is now replacing wine as a method of achieving, I guess, something different but sort of the same. Right.
Some relaxation. Relaxation.
Are you guys going to potentially expand into alcohol then, or even cannabis, do you think?
I mean, Cameron Hughes Wine will not, but for Vintage Wine Estates, they are absolutely looking at infusions. So CBD infused wine is definitely something they're experimenting with. But I think before you see that, what you're going to see a proliferation of is wine cocktails.
Oh,
so,
what is that?
Like Emily was saying, like cocktails are super hot. So the wine industry is kind of, do you remember Bartles and Jaymes?
Oh God, that stuff was so bad. That stuff ruined my college years. Is that really coming back? Are you kidding me? I have nightmares about Bartles and Jaymes.
In like sexy packaging.
Oh.
Like Bartles and Jaymes. Remember it was like the two.
Yes,
like,
those two guys. But what was the tagline? I was like, Bartles and those two old guys. Bartles, I forgot what it was. It was like two old guys from Maine or whatever their accent was. Yes.
Like sitting on the porch.
Yes.
Like,
I went to you'll appreciate this being from the West Coast. My best friend from college got married in Carmel last year. And that was part of my toast to her, that she loves her husband, but not as much as she used to love Bartles and Jaymes. And everybody laughed at the wedding because everybody virtually threw up in their mouth. And I can't believe, this is all Generation X people though, I can't believe that anybody would ever drink that stuff again. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
God.
Yes, because it's not super expensive, right? It's very accessible. It's well distributed, and it has a sweeter profile, and it's an infusion, and millennials love infusions.
Do you know what we're talking about, Emily? Have you ever heard of Bartles and Jaymes?
I do not know what that is.
Oh God, it's like Bartles and Jaymes.
But I feel like if you packaged
California
it cool.
wine cooler.
Oh, I'm sure. By the
And
way,
you like did like, what's a seltzer? The hard seltzer that's like super popular now?
I don't know.
White Claw.
Oh, True
If you just
or White Claw.
Yeah,
I don't know
if
what
you
that
just
A White Claw?
yeah, everybody's like
I'm
all
pouring.
into
I'm pouring
White-
myself more of your wine
Yeah.
just to get the notion of Bartles and Jaymes out of my head.
Yeah, but like I feel like if you package something in a cool way, people.
Here, Emily, have
lot of- I'm gonna
finish
have
the
some.
bottle because this is absolutely repulsive that we're talking about this. But go ahead.
But I feel like
By the way, I have to go pick up my 7-year-old in a couple of hours, which is going to be fantastic. But let's keep talking.
It's gonna be the best pickup ever.
Yeah, exactly.
how was your day, sweetie?
How was your day? I don't know. The mommy needs to take a nap right now. But go ahead.
But I feel like we're
Mommy's
very.
little helper.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But I feel like the packaging, it's all about that for my generation. You put something pretty shitty into a cool package, we're super into it.
I don't know.
I have to say there's better chemistry now than Bartles and Jaymes, like way better. So the wine cocktails that are coming out are actually pretty tasty, and the caloric content is really well managed. So it literally isn't as sugary, Julie. It's like it is a lot better.
Remember
but it
Zima?
still has
Is
I
that
haven't tried it.
no Zima was a thing back like 20, 30 years. It was like a
Yes.
That stuff was
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's way back.
Yeah.
Yes, that was actually after Bartles and Jaymes,
I think it was concurrent
right?
with
That was like early 90s.
yes. Bartles and Jaymes was early 90s. Totally.
No, that was like 80s. It was like late 80s, 85. It had to have been.
Bartles and Jaymes?
Yeah.
Oh, really? No, I think that was a college thing. Well, maybe. I don't know. I graduated college in
college.
95.
I mean, yeah. I would, God, when I was in New York, we would just drink those those big bottles of beer
God,
that weren't beer.
Yeah, exactly. I drank. I didn't really get into alcohol all through college because I kept trying to like gin, and I really hate gin, and I to this day really hate gin, and I for some reason never discovered anything. Oh, and I also used to drink. Remember those Rothschild Chateau something?
Yes.
That were like
Yes.
$8
Mouton
Cadet. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and that stuff was like $8 a bottle, and that's why I really never got into wine until much later when I could afford something more than an $8 bottle of Mouton Cadet, which is what by the way, what we're drinking now is spectacular and so much better, and I really urge everybody legitimately who's listening to this to go out. Where can people buy your wine? Is there
On
tell us
chwine.com.
chwine.com?
Yep,
Okay.
only. It's the only place that we sell.
And
And when it's out, it's out, and then we go into a new lot number.
so what you sent us now, lot 671, is that still online?
Still available.
Okay, because I might want to buy
And,
another case. It's really good.
It really is. It's one of my favorite wines. Are you a white wine drinker?
You sent us white wine. I haven't tried the white wine yet. Excuse me. I am. I like the red wine better, but I'm a rosé drinker. I'm equal opportunity when it comes to good wine.
Tell me your experience with rosé, and Emily too.
Julie and
are you
I
guys
came up with
drinking rosé?
Saltier Politics.
Yes.
While drinking a lot of rosé.
We owe rosé. We owe this podcast to rosé.
Really?
Yes. We love rosé. Whispering Angel was the rosé that I love. I think I overdid it on Whispering Angel a little bit, so I've been a little bit off rosé, but it's very good. So why? Do you guys have a rosé?
We do have rosés. Rosés are like the super most hot category in the wine industry right now.
I know.
And it used to be only a summer wine, and now it's become really an all-year wine. It's really interesting because I don't know if you ladies remember Moscato. It's a sweeter white wine.
Yeah, I'm not into sweet wine, so I'm not really that into it.
Yeah, it was super hot, I would say 10 years ago, and everyone produced a lot of Moscato, and then they were left holding the bag. And they're looking at rosé, and we're all producing a lot of rosé, and we're like, when is this going to end? When will consumers stop liking rosé? And it just hasn't happened.
Well, I'll give you an anecdote about rosé, which has nothing to do with anything other than just completely non-empirical data. I think it was last summer or 2 summers ago. I was going through my Whispering Angel phase, which is when Emily and I decided to do the Saltier Politics. First, we decided to do the video shoot, and then we decided to do the podcast. But I live on the Upper West Side in New York, and there was one store that I found in a really tucked away part of the Upper West Side, which I'm not disclosing because I don't want people to start going there. It was the only liquor store that still carried Whispering Angel. Literally, no other liquor store had Whispering Angel, and it was like the Soviet Union. Like, people had a run on like alcohol, and, not bread, but alcohol. Whispering Angel specifically, and you could not find Whispering Angel. It was crazy, and I think it's still going on, right?
It is. I mean, it's definitely a popular rosé, along with I forgot the name of Angelina Jolie's and Brad Pitt's rosé, which did really, really well too.
I didn't know they made. Is it really good, or is it just because everybody wants Angelina Jolie's and Brad Pitt's?
I personally don't think it's awesome, but
Right.
A lot of people do. I think, again, in the world of wine, the narratives are really hard to build. And so if you have a celebrity kind of associated, it makes it easier for a customer to be like, oh, I'll try it. And they'll just kind of go with it and be like, this is what I know about the wine.
Yeah, I mean, didn't Clooney sell his tequila for $1 billion?
Yes.
And by the way,
Yes.
I like tequila a lot. I've had that tequila. It's no better or worse than other tequila, but I guess if you're George Clooney, you're associated with it, and it's good. And Randy
Right,
Randy
I would
Gruber.
agree with you. It's decent, but it's not like it's not better than a lot of the options that you have in tequila, which
Right.
is a super crowded category. But they, that celebrity piece just made it easier for people to be like, oh, well, maybe I'll try it. And it's very difficult in the adult beverage industry from a marketing standpoint to really get the word out there, unless you're doing stuff like what we're doing on CH Wine, where we're building the narrative, we're trying to explain, we're trying to give customers information that makes their decision making much easier.
I think exactly what you're doing, it makes it more of an equalizer, especially if you know how to use e-commerce and you know how to use social media and get the word out there. Because I recently did an interview, Bon Jovi's son started Hampton Water, which is actually a really good rosé, but he was telling me when he goes to different restaurants to try to get Hampton Water in it, he's like, when they won't have a meeting with me, sometimes I'll just call up my dad and he'll come in the restaurant and then they'll take a meeting. And it's just like, okay, your product is good, but not many people have that privilege of having John Bon Jovi.
JBJ.
To be like, hey, try this.
That creates a beautiful runway.
Right.
Have you ever thought about that? Is it just, what are they looking for? Are they looking for a piece of the company, or what? I mean, is it even worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze, I guess, is the question of having a celebrity advertise. For what? Advertising for your wine.
It's just very difficult. There are a lot of restrictions in how you can market, like how you can, from an advertising standpoint, write your ads. So you have to be really conscientious about, on the, like, if we're talking pure like digital advertising, like most display only happens at night, because that's when adults are online. You have to be really conscientious about kids who are under 21. And so it puts a lot of limitations on what you can do, and where and when the advertising is seen. And so that just creates a lot of confusion. And also just the laws of distribution of alcohol are just make it very difficult for a consumer to make sense of, what is and what isn't.
What's the biggest issue you run into with retailers? Or do you have a good story about that?
With retailers, the truth is I don't work with a lot of retailers because I'm all digital all the time.
Okay. I
would say the one thing I can say, just like anecdotally from customers who are in retail, is that they're overwhelmed by the amount of SKUs that are on the floor. But retailers are like, I'm going to put as much as I can on the floor because it's that per square foot. This is where I generate the most profit.
Can you guys... Sorry, but can you guys sell to all 50 states, or are there some states that you can't do e-commerce
No,
to?
we don't sell to all 50 states. We don't sell to Utah. We don't sell to Arkansas, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Delaware, because those states, just do not allow you to sell alcohol to their citizens.
But anybody else can order. Go to ch.com. Cameron Hughes,
CHWine.
CHWine.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody from all the other states we can ship to. And there are some states where there are limits on what a consumer can purchase into their home. But it's very reasonable.
So let me ask you this, because we have to wrap up. But so we're drinking the Slot 671 Meritage.
Yeah.
It's delicious. What does it retail for?
So it retails for $24 a bottle. And it's the wine, the blend comes from two wineries that sell their wines for $70 and $80 respectively. It's just it's one of those wines that at $24 delivers just unbelievable value.
It's really an incredible, and I'm not just saying this because we're interviewing you, I sincerely mean it. It is an incredible bottle of wine. I'm a big red wine aficionado, and this is a great, great, great bottle of wine.
I know you were just in France. I hope you were drinking.
I was so I've been in France a couple of times this year. I went to Burgundy last December. And I'm not a big Burgundy person. I'm more of a Bordeaux person, but that was nice. And then this time around, we went to Normandy, and I'm not really, that's not where the good wine is. They have something else there that's not equally, it's not equal to the wine. But yes, always good in France. But I have to say, this is just as good as any bottle I've had in Bordeaux. Really, really good.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it. It is actually a Bordeaux blend.
Oh, it is. Okay. Well, it's delicious. Yep. It's really
That's
good.
That's the name Meritage. We're not allowed. Meritage is the American version of Bordeaux.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, that's what it tastes like, and it's delicious. It's really good.
I'm so glad you're enjoying it. And I was just in France too, and I was particularly curious about the restaurant that you went to, the truffle restaurant.
Wow, you did your research. Yes. Have you been there?
I want to know, was it good?
So it's delicious. So I've been there a few times, and it's fantastic. What they do is they put truffles in everything, and it works better in some things than others. I'm not sure that truffles work well with dessert, but if you're ever in France, it's right off the Place de Monge, and it's delicious. And I so strongly recommend it. It's very, very good. Their wine selection is great. If you do the wine pairing with it's
truffle
a prefix.
It's hard to pair with wine because it has a very strong aromatic.
Very strong aromatic, but it worked really well. Whatever they gave us was delicious. And I'm not even a huge, as I said, I'm not a huge sweet wine person. I'm not a huge dessert wine person, but everything they did was amazing. And so it's called La Trufferie. If you're ever there, make sure to go.
I can't
so
wait
good.
to go back.
Yes.
I had the best time. It was so the country just feels like in a different headspace than it's been.
It's not in a good place right now. I feel.
It isn't. It definitely isn't. And I would say that I actually went to a lycée growing up, and it's very interesting to see what's going on in France and how everything is changing, and how there's just a lot of anger and frustration and a big identity crisis.
Matt, did you go to the lycée in New York? Is that where you went?
I went to the lycée in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
That's where I grew up.
Excellent. Yeah, I agree with you. Most of my cousins are French, and they're the first to say it. That they feel like France is not France anymore because it's just depressed. I mean, they just feel the country's just going through this massive depression. Kind of a psychological nervous breakdown all around.
It's so French. That's so French.
That's so French. It is. But that France of we're France, we're great, we're fantastic is gone for this generation. It's kind of sad.
It is. It totally
I
is.
agree.
I have to say, I love your podcast. You guys do such great stuff. And Emily,
Thank you.
I love your stories, and I love that you follow strong women and that you do stories about strong women. so amazing to see.
Well, we're happy to have you, a strong woman, on, and
Yes.
we are looking forward to whenever you visit New York next.
We want to go drinking with you.
Yeah, we want to. That's going to be hilarious.
Yes, we want you to take us to whatever your favorite wine bar is and show us the ropes,
Yes.
because I'm not sure that we know what we're ordering when we go.
I would love to do that, and just keep doing what you guys are doing. I love it. It's so fun to listen to you talk.
Thank you so much, and thanks for being on with us.
And we look forward to
Of course.
talking to you soon and meeting you in person soon.
Me too.
All right, take care.
Have a great one, Jessica.
Bye.
Bye.
Julie, that was a great interview.
It was a fantastic interview. It was great. The wine is still delicious.
Can I tell you something that I am salty about? And this kind of goes right into, I think, everything that we need to talk about
Sure.
Ukraine, but people who don't listen. So I was traveling this week, and just
You were in Texas, were you not?
I was in Texas, and I was when people say, for example, at the gate, they're like Section A, and people from Section B and C go and don't listen, and it just
I'm
holds
that person.
everybody up.
Wait.
Right? Yeah, they're like Section A may board now, and then you have Section B clearly on your ticket.
Okay.
Like, don't go up.
So I'm
Like,
going
don't waste my
to
time.
admit something, which I'm not proud of.
What?
I am that person.
Are you the one I give a nasty look to?
Yes. And
Okay.
secondly, you know that person that there's people in the off ramp who are getting off?
Don't.
And then there's that one person in the left lane who's like, I'm not going to wait on this line in the off ramp. And then they go all the way. And then the very last second, they cut everybody off to go into the off ramp. I'm that person. I'm not proud, but I got places to go. I know everybody else does too. I get it. I'm not proud. There's no excuse. I've had a couple of glasses of delicious Cameron Hughes wine, but I'm that person.
But speaking of people who don't listen, you recently did a tweet that said, Trump Twitter, please answer this. Is there anything that Trump could do? We're kind of going clap back right here. Is there anything that Trump could do that would make you stop defending his behavior? Anything at all? And then you say, don't answer this question with a question and stow the whataboutisms for one moment.
And how many people
Literally?
are like, sure, I can. He could, get people killed in Benghazi.
Literally the first response, Julie, is I would not defend him getting a blowjob in the Oval Office with a young innocent intern whose life he ruined.
What
And
about that person?
I'm like-
Who could that possibly
I'm like,
be?
is that a whataboutism in the first response?
Wait. And then if you keep reading, it's literally like, yeah, I wouldn't, if he sold, delivered pellets of cash to Iran, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, like people, like you literally said, don't do a whataboutism. And then the first answer, and I'm like, this is so easy for a clapback.
It's so easy for a clapback. I know there are days when I really wish the clapback were still around. Maybe we should bring the clapback back, not in that forum, because I think it belongs to the Fox News channel.
Even though it was our baby.
It was our baby, but okay, it belongs to the Fox News channel. That's okay, but I wonder if we could maybe once in a while do a little video of
I think we have to.
responding to my Twitter.
Because
feed.
this was rich.
It was rich. So what's making you salty?
Well, it's people who don't listen. And I really, Julie, I just want to hear what you have to think about this whole Ukraine whistleblower situation.
I mean,
because
it's not. I don't have any novel ideas that people haven't heard before, other than to say this.
I think it's concerning.
Well, there's two things, right? One is the, hey, nice country, be ashamed if something happened to it mentality, which I'm not the first to say, but that's exactly what it was. It was like a mob shakedown. Like, hey, your family's a really nice family. Be ashamed if something happened to your wife and kids. So obviously there's nothing novel about that. But the second part that's interesting to me, which I don't think people have focused enough on, is who benefits aside from Donald Trump by this? And the answer is, of course, Vladimir Putin. And the answer for that is because if you withhold foreign aid to Ukraine, and by the way, anybody who's saying, oh, Ukraine was a corrupt regime, of course, really? Because we are bending over backwards for the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, who had an American green card holder beheaded. And we don't seem to have a problem with that corruption.
We overlook that.
We overlook that, right, because Jared Kushner's, got some sort of deal working with him. But we certainly overlook a lot of other corrupt regimes that we donate money to or give money to and foreign military assistance to. But the person that really benefits from this, I mean, don't forget that Ukraine is literally a war, not de jure, but de facto a war with Russia. And Russia has already annexed the Crimea and the Crimean Peninsula. And their soldiers are in eastern Ukraine. And when we withhold military aid from Ukraine, we are withholding military aid to what end? Why do they need military aid? They need military aid not because they're fighting a war with Sweden, not because they're fighting a war with Poland, not because they're fighting a war with France, because they're fighting a war with Russia. And when we withhold aid to Ukraine, we are withholding aid to them fighting against Russia. So once again, who benefits from Donald Trump not providing military aid against the specific instructions of Congress who appropriated this funding for this purpose? Russia. That's who, once again, Vladimir Putin is helped by. And his whole crazy notion, Donald Trump's crazy notion of saying, oh, the servers in Ukraine, the Ukrainians have something to do with this, takes Russia off the hook. Ukrainians didn't have anything to do with this. They didn't. You know who benefited from it? You know who did it? Putin. Russia did.
I would have loved to see your face yesterday during the when Trump was talking with the Ukrainian president, and he said, it would really help everybody if you get along with Russia, or you guys would find. What at that moment, Julie, went through your head?
Well, you know what went through my head? It would, when Germany annexed the Sudetenland in 1938, and okay, before everybody goes crazy, I'm not making Nazi analogies, I'm making historical analogies, right? When Germany annexed the Sudetenland in 1938, hilarious if Franklin Roosevelt would have gone to the Czechs and he would have said, would have really helped you guys if you just, if you just got along with Hitler better.
Yeah.
Or better yet, in 1939, which is we're now the anniversary of that invasion of September 1st, if he had gone, if the Allies had gone to the Poles and said, I know that the Germans have just invaded, and I know that a few days later the Soviets have just invaded, but you guys would be a lot better off if you just got along better with the Soviets and the Germans. The reality is somebody took their land. Somebody literally invaded and stole their land, and somebody's trying to do the same thing in eastern Ukraine. And you know why? Because Vladimir Putin was on record in one of the most famous, if not the most famous quote that he's given, in saying the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century is the dissolution of the Soviet Union. Well, you know how the Soviet Union gets reconstituted? First and foremost, the three Slavic republics there were 15 Soviet republics, the three Slavic republics, Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus decide to become one country. Or not decide, somehow miraculously become one country. Belarus is a foregone, awful, totalitarian Russian fealty, for lack of a better description. Ukraine is standing strong. I mean, God bless the Ukrainians. I think they're in great shape. And let me tell you what makes me salty.
Yeah.
And this is very nuanced. People like Donald Trump refer to Ukraine as the Ukraine. And let me explain why there's a difference between Ukraine and the Ukraine. So Ukraina in Russian means the edge, like a physical edge, like the precipice, right? And so if you refer to it as the edge and not edge, what you're basically saying is it's the edge of our border, the edge of our sphere of influence, however you want to interpret the edge of, right? The perimeter, the precipice, so the edge, as opposed to edge, like Bono, edge, the edge. But if you're referring to it as the Ukraine, you're essentially, and this is really nuanced, and I get that people don't get this, but you're basically saying this is the edge of our geopolitical sphere of influence, whatever it is, it's a part of us. But we refer to it as Ukraine, which is what the Ukrainians asked for it to be referred to after they declared independence. It's just Ukraine. It's edge. I don't know. Edge is not the right word. I don't know how to describe a perimeter, precipice, something. But it doesn't have the same connotation of this is part of our sphere of influence. Same thing with Belarus, right? Belarus is one thing. It used to be called Belorussia, which means White Russia, like the White Russian drink. Belorussia was White Russia. They're not called Belorussia anymore. They're called Belarus, which I know is a very nuanced difference, but there is a difference to it, and that's what they started calling themselves after they declared independence. So Donald Trump, Maria Bartiromo, who I personally love, but she said this in an interview a few days ago, it's not called the Ukraine. It's called Ukraine for a reason. I know that it's a nuanced reason. I don't expect people to understand it, but now that I've explained it, please abide by it. Please don't make me salty again by referring to it as the Ukraine.
No, that's super important, and I think especially in this day and age when language and nuances have become so important, I think that's very educational, and it's a really good thing for people to keep in mind.
Thank you. All right. We have been at this for a long time. Through almost an entire bottle of wine, as a matter of fact.
I know. We had to, though.
We had to. I have to go pick up my child. Emily, thank you for coming in fourth in the 40 and over age group. I am disappointed mightily at the fact that you did not come in first, being 29.
I know.
No, actually, all joking aside, thank you for running an incredible marathon. The people who organized, not marathon, race, the people who organized this race will be very shocked when I run the next time, and they'll be like, what happened? God, you're so fast and so good, and now you're coming in last. So
but you'll have the biggest smile.
If I either that or I'll be taken away in a wheelchair. One of the two. All right, everybody. See you next week.
Later.
Bye.